give them any, you know, say so.
Mm-hmm.
I think people would realize, you know, this isn't who we are.
Well, but if you look at the institutions that own the major media corporations, you know, they are the American royalty, and they have a vested interest in keeping
Controversy going.
well, but they have a vested interest in keeping society the way it is,
Yeah.
the way it has been, and keeping power concentrated in few hands, and keeping wealth and income concentrated in few hands. So one of the things that we all have to do is also create our own media, and not simply accept that the only sources of information are the traditional mainstream media that are owned by gigantic corporations. You know, one of the realities is that in our lifetimes, you only have to go back about a generation, most of what Americans read, saw, and heard every day came from 50 corporations. Today, most of what Americans read, see, and hear comes from five major media corporations. So, you know, we really have to do what Teddy Roosevelt talked about, busting the trusts, Standard Oil and all of those. And, well, we need to bust up the media conglomerates as well, and we need to create our own media. When I go to high schools or college campuses, one of the things I talk about is the fact that right now TV is king in American politics. That's where most Americans get most of their information about candidates, elections, all of that is from television. Worst possible place to get their information, but that's where they get their information. There's going to come a day when television will no longer be king, and it'll be some kind of handheld device that hasn't even been invented yet that will be the primary means of political communication. When that day comes, if we have a free and open internet, that would be revolutionary politically.
How are we going to get that when the FCC in that court said no?
That's a heck of a fight, and you know that's no accident. Those interests fully understand, from the Koch brothers and the Walton family to to all of the big corporate media conglomerates. They understand that one day the internet will be the primary means of political communication. They not only want to figure out a way to profit from the internet more than they are currently, but they also understand that it will either be an instrument of control or it will be an instrument that can serve to liberate. If we have a free and open internet, candidates could get a message to people without having to pay for all the airtime that they pay for on television. That would have an enormous impact. So they need to get rid of net neutrality. They need to get rid of the policies that currently govern the internet and turn the internet into something more like cable television. And that's what they're trying to do.
More like
we have to fight
the
that.
REA bringing in electricity, the telephone coming to everyone.
Yep.
And that internet should come to everyone, high quality.
And you know, think about those kinds of things. People who came before us, our parents and grandparents, they established things like rural electrification, and they created the FCC so that there would be regulation of the public airwaves, and things like the Fairness Doctrine were created. That was promoting democracy. A lot of that is under vicious assault today. We need to see that assault for what it is, and we need to meet that assault with a citizen movement that is as strong as those in the past that made such a good public policy for us.
Your opening little story about the farmer caring about his neighbor, just that general thing, it seems like it's top to bottom, is self-interest.
Yeah.
That's the thing that people got to overcome.
Yep.
Materialistic, what I need to get, I got mine, so what I do. Yep. That's a core thing. I mean, and that echoes, I think, at the top to the bottom.
Yep. So
that's a major shift that the minds of, Americans in general have to do, which is a big challenge.
Yeah. Well, and when you think about our economic policy in this country, in the 30 years after World War II, we grew together as a nation. Every single income class got ahead. And then in the 30 or 40 years after that, we've grown apart as a nation. The richest have grown vastly wealthier, the poor have gotten poorer, and the middle class has slowly but surely been exterminated. And that's by design. That's been politically engineered. And it does have a lot to do with money and politics and its grip over Washington and places like Madison. But, you know, the funny thing is that if you talk about 85 people having as much wealth as 3.5 billion people, they say you're engaging in class warfare. And if you actually try to do something about it, then they say you're a socialist. But you know, America's never been a socialist country. Never. Yet we had policies that made our country grow together for decades. And now we have policies that are making our country grow apart. And those policies are politically engineered. The ones after World War II were politically engineered. The GI Bill, rural electrification, all these things were done to help everybody get ahead. It touched every American family. Now we've got policies that are enriching a few and making everybody else a heck of a lot more vulnerable.
Well,
so yeah.
Well, even your blue gene term, you have blue in there, so you're a liberal socialist. It's a blue gene, not just genes. Maybe you just call it genes because that's what.
But you know, but the thing is, what I'm not saying that blue genes have to be the symbol, but really think long and hard. What does every American have in common? Do they have the donkey in common? Do they have the elephant in common? What does every American have in common? What unites us, whether you're in the city, whether you're in the country, whether you're young or old, rich or poor, black or white, what do you have in common? And then what would distinguish average Americans, common folk, from the people at the top who are ruling us? And I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that identity.
Definitely.
That can help us get out of the rut that we're in.
One thing I did want to ask, you said walking ads. What did you mean by that? Just generally talking to people and trying to just do a grassroots, or trying to actually say, to fight television ad, which is the biggest, you know, brainwashing.
Well, you know, when I talk about a walking ad, if you think about an ad's message, they're really short. They're 30 seconds long, and it's usually just a couple of. You can put that on some visual display. It could be very, very well done.
T-shirt.
And you could take that, whether it's a sandwich board or wherever, you could take that to busy places where lots of eyeballs will see it. What does it matter if somebody sees it while on their way to work, or passing you on a sidewalk in a shopping area, or whether they're sitting on the couch in their living room? What does it matter when their eyes see it? When does it matter when the message reaches them? But we've somehow gotten this idea that the only way politics can be conducted is by buying TV ads. And the parties buy into this and say, we've got to have a candidate who either has a personal fortune or is willing to take out a second mortgage on his soul to raise all this money to pay for TV ads.
Or is attractive enough.
Yeah, why couldn't we as citizens imagine ways to communicate messages, but not over television? But you never see it done. Well, what if out on the rural byways, rural highways, people are driving all over the place, they're in their cars all the time. What if they were seeing the messages that they would otherwise see on their television while sitting in their living room?
That's how Feingold got elected in '92. We traveled the state, and we didn't even know who he was. I mean, he grew up in Janesville. But we would see a Feingold sign here, and then we'd see a Feingold sign there, and then in somebody's field, all over the state. Pretty soon, people were wondering, who is this person?
Mm-hmm. They could be just as slickly produced. And I'm telling you, instead of having to spend millions on airtime, you could spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands and have really very impressive signs, and citizens could be getting messages to people. So that's what I mean when I talk about a living billboard or a walking ad. What's to prevent, why does the television set have to be the delivery system for political messages? Why couldn't citizens put those very same messages, or hopefully better, more creative and less disgusting ones, in front of people's eyeballs when they're going to work, when they're going shopping, when they're out and about, when they're in their cars? Why couldn't they be confronted with that? Why are we trapped into this idea that you've got to have a huge amount of money to be able to run an effective political campaign?